Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Welcome to Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat podcast. I am your host, Dr. Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist, an author, and the creator of the Awareness Integration Theory. I'm thrilled to have you join us today, and I promise you to have an amazing discussion with Deb Krier. She is a seasoned entrepreneur with a rich background in communications, marketing, and public relations. A stage 4 triple positive breast cancer survivor and a thyroid cancer survivor. Deb founded tryingnottodie.LIVE, tryingnottodie.LIVE in 2022 to empower individuals navigating cancer. Through this platform, she inspires others to embrace their inner warrior, build supportive communities, and amplify their voices. As an advocate and a speaker, Deb champions resilience, empowerment, and connection, turning struggles into strengths and fostering hope within cancer community. Her mission is clear: to help others embrace life and defy cancer's impact. It was amazing having a conversation. I've obviously worked a lot with people who are going through the process or people who have gone through the process and are healing. People who are caretakers and are going through their own journey while they are taking care of someone who has a cancer patient. So we talked about what the journey could be like, what are some of the things that are needed for both, how to be with yourself and your body, how to take care of yourself, how to champion for yourself, how to generate support, ask for when you don't need support, ask for when you need some privacy, and all of those. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation as much as I have, and to learn from it and share it with your friends. Now be sure to subscribe to my podcast, my YouTube channel, and connect with me through my website, foojanzeine.com. You can also go to awarenessintegration.com and learn about all the research that we're doing across the world, internationally, in awareness integration around depression, anxiety, raising self-esteem with different people in different demographic. If you have opportunities to do this research, please tell me. We have different courses for therapists and coaches who are getting trained. Go to my app, Foojan app, and go through 31 areas of your life and really look at how to improve your life. And we've had amazing responses where people have gone through even one life area and they're improving their life area about 60 to 70%. And we definitely have numbers to show that. And we have Mira in the app, which is your AI companion. And Mira has been trained exclusively in the awareness integration theory. So you can ask Mira anything you like, and she will respond to you from the awareness integration. So go to Foojan app. You can go through Apple or Google if you have Android, and download the latest. It does have a couple of days of free trial, so you could experience it and see, chat with Mira and see what she says. All right. Connect with me, my social media platform. Share your thoughts with me. I love to hear from you. So just connect with me. Now, without further ado, here's Deb Krier.
Listen up if you want to promote your personal growth and self-awareness. I found the Foojan app last month and I have been absolutely loving it. I personally have never learned guided meditation, but thanks to this app, I now have learned incredible tools for my own stress relief and emotional self-awareness. Not to mention, there are self-evaluation tools and professional coaching available to utilize however your journey to self-discovery takes you. Join Foojan today and redefine your life one step at a time.
Intentional Parenting, a practical guide to awareness integration theory, written by Dr. Jafari, Dr. Foojan Zeine, and Dr. Manoukian, 3 experts in human development, is your step-by-step guide to raising a healthy child prepared for a culturally integrated world. You're supported in parenting infants to adolescents using the latest evidence-based scientific research on parenting. Order your copy on Amazon now. I'm so glad to have Deb Krier with me. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Foojan. I am so honored to be your guest. I've listened to some of your other programs, and you have a fantastic program.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I know that you've gone through a life journey that you want to share with us. And I have been privileged to be with many people throughout the, 32, 33 years of being a psychotherapist, be part of that journey, to share that journey with many of my clients, when many of my friends actually are going through this. So there's such a wide variety of experience that shows up for people. Although, sometimes we go through an illness and possibly the symptomology is similar, or the treatments are similar, all of those, but the experiences are so wide and different.
Right.
And yet there's a part that we can kind of all relate to it. So I just want to have this opening for you to share with us your experience, and let us know and let our audience know kind of like not only what you went through for the journey, all the things you've learned from this, where you could share with us.
Great. Well, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version because it's really been pretty complicated. So it started almost 10 years ago, 2015, which is really hard to believe when I think back about everything that I went through. And I went for my annual mammogram. Wasn't even home. And they called and said, you need to come back. Now, I worked for an oncologist and I worked for the American Cancer Society. So I know that wasn't that I didn't smile pretty, right? It was, we found something. But of course, they can't say that. And so I went back, and what I was diagnosed with, the computer found it. I didn't have a lump. I didn't have a bump. I didn't have anything like that. I had microcalcifications, which are these itty bitty specks. Because I, of course, went to Dr. Google, which I tell people, don't do that. I went to Dr. Google and I said, what is a microcalcification? Discovered that women of a certain age have these. Happens when the hormones change in our bodies. And the vast, vast majority of time, there's no problem. Well, I'm special. And so mine had started to kind of clump together. But they diagnosed it at stage 0 and said, we're just going to watch this. Let's not get too concerned about it. I did get a surgeon. She did a couple of biopsies, and those came back negative. But again, we were trying to hit something really pretty small. And then she said, you know what, let's go ahead and pull some lymph nodes. And so I had that surgery, and 8 of 12 lymph nodes were positive for cancer. So I went from stage 0 to stage 3, poof. And it was like, oh, well, this is different. And so all of a sudden, obviously, the whole mindset changed. I was still annoyed. And it was like, I'm sorry, I don't have time for this. And she looked at me like, no, you're going to make time. And so then I did get an oncologist, an absolutely wonderful woman. She's still my oncologist to this day. Saw her last week. And I decided that I wanted to have the traditional approach. I tell people, you have to pick what works for you. Just as you said, everything is different. Every person is different. If you don't think that the traditional approach is going to work for you, then don't do it. And so I was going to have chemotherapy, surgery, radiation. So my first chemotherapy, it was a massive dose. It was 8 different drugs. And I was fine for several days and then not fine. I ended up in septic shock. I got a complication that happens less than 1% of the time and is almost always fatal, because septic shock is almost always fatal. Luckily, my doctors, everybody rallied around. I spent about 7 weeks in the hospital, in and out of various surgeries, in and out of ICU, just kind of in and out. I don't remember a big portion of that time. But as I'm sure, if I talked to somebody at that point in time who was a therapist, they would have said, and even still, that was my brain's way to deal with it, and it was just, no, we're going to focus on the healing. and that's it. And so, then I did have surgery. I had decided to have a double mastectomy. And I decided not to have reconstructive surgery, partially because I'm old. I was like, and I also, I wanted to do both because I didn't want to be lopsided. I didn't want to have to worry about the other side. I got a complication from that my surgeon had never seen, ended up back in the hospital again.
You're special again.
I know, I'm just always special. And I keep telling me I can be boring. It's okay. I can be boring now. Sailed through radiation, which they were really kind of surprised at because of my fair complexion. I had no visible signs of radiation, and a lot of times people will end up with some anything from what looks like a sunburn to pretty severe burns. Nah, I had none of that. We did try chemo again, a totally different regime, and I had the exact same reaction. Ended up back in the hospital. But this time it was just sepsis. Just sepsis, right? And but this whole time I kept working almost the entire time. I own my own business, and I tell people hospitals and doctors' offices have really good Wi-Fi. Plus, it gave my mind something to focus on, right? And and I absolutely adore my clients. I have a marketing consulting firm, and they said, "What can we do to help?" It was not they had no hesitation. I, kept going merrily along. My body has had more issues because of the septic shock than because of cancer. But along the way, in these last 9 years, I did, and so actually my technical diagnosis has now become stage 4 metastatic triple positive breast cancer, which is not good, but it has not reared its ugly little head in 10 years. And 10 years is kind of that magic mark, right? So I got to get through several more months and then I can breathe again. But I did develop a little basal cell carcinoma, which is a lot worse than it sounds. It's a little skin cancer. They zapped it. All good. But 2 years ago, I also developed thyroid cancer, which may or may not have been...
Yes. Your cells are very active.
I know, those little buggers are just doing stuff they're not supposed to. And so, I discovered that thyroid cancer is always a primary cancer. So it was not a spread of the original breast cancer. I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, it's just, but it could have been. I do have a family history of thyroid cancer, but he also said radiation might have been part of the issue because the area that was irradiated was my throat. And so, had my thyroid removed, caught that really, really early. There was no lymph node involvement, nothing at all. I see that doctor who I adore every year. I mean, I'd see him more often because I like him. But, it's just been a journey. And all along, though, I tried to keep my sense of humor, tried to stay upbeat, but it's been a challenge. I mean, I had a surgical procedure in December. They took my port out finally because I am still in active treatment. And they took my port out, and that was procedure number 35, if I've kept track right. So, yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Yes. It has been, and it seems like one of the biggest concept about this, right, is what you said about the positive angle of looking at things, constantly just concentrating on getting better and the recovery and what you need to do. But there are, there's even the psychological ride is very bumpy. I think the first time that anyone has stated that you might have or you have it or that you are diagnosed. There's an experience that people go through. I remember, I got to tell you this. I was 15 years old, and talk about bedside manner of the doctors. So I was 15, and with one of the pap smear, I got the cells growing. So the doctor says, and I'm an immigrant, so I was here alone. And I had just gone to Arizona State University. I wasn't even at a boarding school. I was just me at 15 alone here.
Wow.
So the doctor said to me, So he's on the phone with me and he says, you have to come back for this result. And I said, okay, don't come alone. Do you have any parents to come with you? And I'm
Oh,
like, anyone older than you to come with you? I'm like, no, I don't. He says, well, then bring a very good friend. I said, okay. So
why?
with me and we're sitting there and, you know, with just this bedside manner, I'm scared now, like what's going to happen? So he doesn't even look at me. He looks at my, you know, my friend and said, talks about, you know, the possibility of this being cervical cancer and all of that. I'm sitting there like bawling. The only thing I'm thinking is I'm dying. I'm not going to ever have a children. You know, what's going to happen to me? And, you know, and it wasn't any of that, but it was more like the first time that I had conversation about this.
Right.
And then, you know, sitting with my clients, and there's been, I also had the calcium, and I was tagged like, okay, I'm a, you know, endangered species now. I'm tagged. So there's been a lot of these conversations for me where I go in and they're like, and then no, there isn't, and then and there isn't. And so I sit with me and my clients where at one point you have to face the conversation of death almost changing. And then, okay, we'll go through that. And then we shift into, well, I'm here and I'm going to only focus on this now.
Right.
And there's a emotional process that happens through that, facing in the inevitable concept that at one point we all have to face of death, because somehow cancer immediately brings
it panics you.
Right? And then come back and kind of like, you know, sometimes people have to convince themselves. The other side of this, which is interesting, is I've worked with many clients who had a lot of depression. Some of them had severe addiction and depression. And part of our work was that they consistently wanted to commit suicide. And part of our work was to keep them alive.
Right.
When they got diagnosed with cancer, it was more like, no, I'm going to stay alive. I'm going to go through all of this. And they say it like, I know, I've been convincing you that I wanted to not live for the past 10 years. And then cancer shows up and I'm like, damn, I'm going to let you take it.
Right. I'm in control.
I'm going to survive. So this is fascinating in how we deal with this illness.
Right. You know, and it definitely strikes fear, you know, even if it's a simple basic diagnosis like my skin cancer, because and everybody knows somebody who has died from cancer, you know, and especially when we start getting older, right? And so we just automatically assume it's a death sentence, you know, and obviously the vast majority of the time it is not. Something else is the we die of old age, whatever it is, you know, heart attack, hit by a bus, whatever it is. But we just, there is something about that cancer diagnosis that is just absolutely terrifying. You know, and I think, you know, especially as women, when we're doing what we're supposed to do every year, we go in and we have our pap tests, we have our mammograms, all of those things. And even when there's been absolutely nothing that has given us something to think about until we get those results, we're kind of holding our breath, right? And, you know, and I think that's one of the things that is hardest about all of this is, you know, there's a lag time. And, you know, God bless them all. It's everybody, they're overwhelmed, overworked, understaffed, all of those things. And some results just take longer to process. And so, you know, even when I have tests now, sometimes it's a week before I get the test results. And that entire week, I'm thinking, what if? You know, what am I going to do if it's come back? You know, and then there are times where I'm just quite certain that the doctors are, you know, they don't see a concern. You know, I mentioned, you know, my thyroid cancer. So I see an endocrinologist for that. I have lots of doctors. And like,
Special.
pardon me?
Because you're special.
Yes, because I'm special. And so, I was due to have my annual check with him. And so he had ordered an ultrasound, and she's doing the ultrasound, and she focuses on one point a little longer than normal, right? So then the little gremlins in my brain start going. And then I got, the results. And I like having my test results online. I don't like that we get those results before the doctors can talk to us, because the ultrasound results said there was a new lesion. I love that word, right? That just sounds really spooky, scary. And it hadn't been there the last ultrasound. And also I had a PET scan late last year and it wasn't there. So if this was something, it was something that was pretty fast. So I immediately get in touch with my endocrinologist. He text messages. He loves doing that. I mean, I don't think I've ever had him go more than 4 hours without responding to me. It's amazing, right? And he very calmly says, I see the results. I think it's probably more that you have a small throat infection, just something going on. And let's wait. He said, I'll talk with you when you come in for your check, but we'll redo the test result, or we'll redo the ultrasound in 6 months. And my response to him was, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. I want the needle biopsy. I want it now. And it's as scary as it sounds. And I said, I'm, not doing this. He, of course, came back calmly and rationally and said, let's talk about it. And I happened to see my oncologist the same week, and I waved all the test results at her, and she looked at it and she said, I agree with him, but this is really bothering you, isn't it? And I said, well, of course it is. And she said, okay, I'm going to send you to another doctor. And I saw another doctor within a week, and he was wonderful. He did the ultrasound in his office, and he said, whatever it is gone. And he said, I don't need to see you again. And he said, and then he was cute. He said, I'm very, very good at this. You're okay. And, but yeah, that we're going to wait 6 months. No, and it was funny because I did see my endocrinologist in person last week. First thing he did was apologize. He said, I am sorry. He said, I totally forgot your history. And I responded with the standard answer. And he said, I shouldn't have done that. That's why I like him, and we'll repeat the ultrasound in 6 months, but there's nothing now to be worried about. It was more, let's just make sure.
Things I'm hearing from you is to make sure that you advocate for yourself.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you absolutely have to.
We do go to experts, and obviously they're the experts, but there's also knowing that we know our body, and, we have our own our body, and, responds to us and says things to us. We need to also trust it and advocate for ourselves in the medical industry. And there's, that many of them just see, people become desensitized. If you're a doctor, you might become desensitized. And they're just normal stuff. You're not desensitized. This is your body, and it's your responsibility to take care of yourself, and you have to, move forward with that. You've talked about these, like the I'm fine syndrome. Can you bit about what you mean by that?
Sure. Well, I see the word fine as one of those 4-letter words that starts with F, right? The ones that we can't say when we're on, because it's our standard answer. If I say, Dr. Foojan, how are you doing today? You're going to say, I'm fine. Our doctors ask us, our friends, our family ask us, and we say, I'm fine. We're either fine to me is kind of that middle ground. But we always answer, I'm fine. And we can be ready to go out and run a marathon, or we can be about ready to keel over. And we're still going to say, I'm fine. It's okay to tell the person at the grocery store, I'm fine. Nobody else should we ever give that answer to. And if a medical care provider, and I tell my medical team, if I ever say I'm fine, it means there's a really big problem. I always say I'm hunky-dory. And they know if I don't say I'm hunky dory that there is an issue. But yeah, we use fine to cover everything, right? For people who are married, I love this. I see this on Facebook every once in a while. It's a meme that says something along the lines of, husbands, if you ask your wife how she is and she says fine, run away. Right? Because that word just covers everything and means almost nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So it's important for you to be in tune with who you are.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm hearing is to be able to share this with people who you feel safe with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The sensation of being diagnosed and then sharing with people is also its own unique concept, which people have a different experience with.
Mm-hmm.
I've had friends and clients who did not want anybody to know. They all had one or two people.
Mm-hmm.
When I have asked what's going on, and they said there's an experience that people have when you tell them that I'm diagnosed with cancer, that it comes sometimes with compassion, but sometimes it comes with pity, and sometimes it almost feels like I have to take care of their emotion.
Right.
Who ask, they want to go into details, and I've already shared details. Don't want to every single phone call. I don't want to have the details. And people will share things with me that, that it's not relevant to me, or, it puts me in a position that I got to go through. It's almost like I have my own fears, my own ups and downs, and then I have to deal with everybody else's fears and even like wrong information that they want. And then I also have other people who, yes, like they put it up front and they consistently say that I it or that I am a cancer survivor. And, there's a part with the sharing that not only gives them the hope and the community, knowing that people love them, but also give information and share that. And that it's like a variety of experiences for people. What is your experience? And I know that, you work a lot with this community. What are your experiences?
Well, I share, obviously, or I wouldn't be here. But I also try to judge how much someone wants to know. Right. And even my good friends, they don't always want to, and it's funny because I have a private Facebook group where I post just my own personal, and it's just for people who want to know that. But I know that they're thinking, oh, good Lord, she's been at this for 10 years. Right. And so I don't post there very often. I post, I have treatment every 21 days. And so I post pictures of that. But, other than that, I don't post an awful lot, or, doctor updates, but just not a ton. But I think it's very much like grief. We, if someone has lost a loved one, we don't want to ask because we don't want them to have to relive it and go through those emotions. And, we as that person going through that process, like you said, we don't know how much they want to know. Were they just being polite? Which really is one of those, and people are funny. I had one person who was just an acquaintance, but known that I had gone through this, reached out one time and pulled my hair. And I was like, ah, and she said, oh, I just wanted to know if it was a wig. And I was like, and I said, you would have pulled it off, but I'm sure that person is also the type of person who walks up and touches a woman's tummy who's pregnant, right? Boundaries, people, boundaries. But, one of the questions I get the most is from a coworker, a loved one, a family member, whoever. And they say, my friend, my, loved one was just diagnosed and I don't know what to say. And so what they do is they don't say anything. And then we think, oh gosh, they don't love us. So the easiest thing is just to say, I'm sorry this happened to you. Then everybody gets to kind of determine how much further they're going to discuss it. But we have to acknowledge that elephant is in the room. I was speaking with somebody the other day whose husband passed away in January. And I told her, I said, I am, I know you've heard this a lot, but I just wanted to say again, I'm very sorry. And she kind of sighed and she said, people have stopped talking about it. And she said, it's like he never existed. And, and that just broke my heart. But that was all I said to her was, I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. But yeah, it's okay to acknowledge that elephant in the room. Now I did have one person, this was really funny. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And like we said, been doing this for 9 years. And he said, so are you still going through that cancer thing? And I said, well, yeah. And then he didn't know what to say. Yeah, that cancer thing, that was kind of an odd one. But yeah, it's okay to talk about it. And for the people who are really wondering, I did have a lot of people who said we didn't know what to say. Yeah. And I said, Hallmark has cards. And I still have all the cards that people sent to me. And the gifts, oh my gosh, some of the gifts are just the most precious things in the world that I will treasure forever.
There are times that, we have friends and family who possibly live with us or are very close to us, and they can come and support. And I've had 2 or 3 clients who they lived alone. And they've had friends and family come in and support them. But it was also this kind of balance that they needed their privacy. They didn't want to be sometimes fussed over or guilty. They didn't want to. And they always felt like, if I'm going to right after chemo or some of these times, which is really hard for me, that I want to accept and receive their love and care. But also this part that sometimes it becomes too much. And they want to love me, but there's like constantly asking me, doing things and telling me, it's almost like feeling being controlled at one point. So there's also this balance of knowing that as caretakers or loved ones, to actually just ask and respect in what it is that the patient at that moment really and wants. And it's important through some of the time, which possibly the person just coming out of surgery or the second or third day of a heart or something, for people to be able to be there for someone, but to literally ask, what is it that it's needed? We have friends who are great at caretaking, and we have friends who are amazing at making fun and have fun. Yes. And both of them are important.
Most definitely.
Possibly we could ask the people who care for us beautifully to come in at certain times that we really need physical care. There might be other people who are not really good at that physical care, but afterward that I need to lift up and experience the humor and not be, a cancer patient.
Yes.
To be able to kind of like have a break from this and laugh and sing.
Well, and laughter heals us.
Yes. Yeah. So it's important for people who are listening to us who might have a loved one to go this, to be okay with, I'm not a person, I'm working all day, I'm not the person who can come in and support you physically, but I can call and just have fun. I have one friend who has been diagnosed with, and she's going through the chemo. And every time I asked her, what do you need from me? She said, nothing, just call me so I know that you love me, and then make me laugh. And that's all. Like, we don't talk about any of the other pieces. It's just more like we're just talk about stuff. I'll tell her the jokes. I'll send it because that's what she needs. She doesn't to go through that. It's important for people to have, each to get to know each person for who they are, what they need at that moment, and listen. I just that perspective. And like you said, sometimes when the person is complete with their treatment, and then it's like, okay, we're done. We don't want to do this anymore. And we just live. But there might be the part of that person who still needs to talk about it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Like we said, it's always there. We've got that shadow that is always, lurking back there. And I love what you were saying. It was funny. My mother came out, only child, and my mother just passed away a year ago. And she and I didn't have the best relationship, but of course she immediately came when my husband called and said, and he actually said, I'm not sure she's going to get through the night. But she stayed for 4.5 months. And when she started rearranging my kitchen, it was like, nope, you're going home. But, it falls on both of us. I tell people, don't just say, tell me if there's something you need, because my brain is so befuddled that I can't even figure that out. And so be specific. Do you want me to pick up a book? Do you need me to go to the grocery store? All these various things. But we as the cancer patient have to ask also, because our friends and our loved ones and our coworkers, they can't read our minds. So, if I need somebody to go to the grocery store for me, I need to say, hey, I need somebody to go to the grocery store for me. But it is okay years down the road to even say, oh my gosh, you still look great. How are you doing? And just things like that to acknowledge. And because, we as the cancer patient, it's very interesting. I was talking with another friend about this. When you finish everything, it's just like poof. You were dealing with all of this, and then there's that, oh, you're supposed to be normal again, and we're not ever going to be normal again. I tell people it's normal. It's my new normal. And so don't act like it didn't happen. Again, you don't have to dwell on it. Now it's just, oh my gosh, you look great. How you feeling? That's all you need to say, because then I can follow up with however much. But it's okay to still be talking about, hey, know you went through some rough times. I'm so glad that you're still here. You never know.
And a lot of although we go through a lot of hardship as you go through treatment programs, but one thing I've always heard is it was a knock on their head by a 2x4, where it really changes people's lives, their purpose in life. Some people let go of their job that they're not happy with. They let go of, all the little stuff that they always got upset with. One of the experiences that I've had with many, many, many women with breast cancer, and I don't have that experience a lot with other types of cancer, is rage. A lot of rage. And, although there's no research that says, your rage causes your breast cancer, but the ratio of how many women who have been in rage and didn't take care of themselves, they didn't go to therapy, they didn't handle their rage, that your body goes after itself because...
Right. All that negative is in there going, right?
Yes. And sometimes as they are diagnosed, the rage goes up, and then, kind of slowly but surely we can sit and then, go back to a healing, because your body will go through healing unless you create empathy for yourself. You kind of like, you can, kind of balance yourself with not get so bogged down all the time. So this concept of compassion and empathy towards your own body, coming back to you and really healing your body, and people will really change their lives after this, the diagnosis, the treatment, being fine afterward, the word fine, becoming, healed afterward. It's been astonishing for me of how this diagnosis, this illness, and the recovery from this illness has totally changed people's lives for the better.
Right. Yeah. People ask me, are you happy you got cancer? I mean, they've actually asked me that. And it's such a weird question. Okay. I would not go through all the pain and all, ick. I'm hollow inside. I've had so many surgeries, all sorts of things. But it's like you said, I've come out of it, or am coming out of it, or wherever I am in that process, with a different outlook. I don't want the toxic people around me. I scroll past those icky things on Facebook. I don't feel like I need to respond. I don't watch the news. I know what's going on in the world. I don't need to watch the news. Take walks. One of the things I really try and do is tell people I love them. Now, obviously, it has to be real, right? But don't let people. They need that as much as we do. And so I like to think that all of this has changed me for the better. Are there days where I'm cranky and icky? Well, just ask my husband. And there are definitely times where I have a big pity party. One of the issues that I have and probably will always have is chronic pain. And, there are times where I hit that wall, and I hit that wall hard. And the biggest thing, and it was funny, I was just having this discussion with somebody earlier today, is telling people no, right? I can't do that today. I can't volunteer to this. I can't do whatever it is. And it's okay. But it really is a challenge, because we want, we're especially women, right? We want to take care of people. We want to do whatever, but it's like the airplane thing, right? The mask falls down. You put your mask on first before you try and help somebody else. So that goes with self-care. That goes with time management. That goes with whatever. If we're not taking care of ourselves first, then we can't take care of anybody else around us. But I certainly see why I think a lot of people, especially if they've had a very serious diagnosis, have PTSD and need to talk to a therapist or their church person or whoever, because they don't know how to deal with these emotions. Because like I said, we're done. You're told you're done with treatment, therefore you should be all better. Well, we're not. And so we need to talk with someone to get through that.
I totally agree, because there is a phenomenon that, we have a kind of a post kind of not only trauma, but also when you're going through something that you're surviving it consistently, that the depression, after you leave it, then your body actually has the time to process it. And as processes this, your psyche processes this, then you go into emotions. People through war, respond to, domestic violence, illnesses, all of those. There is a time that all you're doing is trying to survive the process. The minute that it feels safe a little bit, then the grief of the process, then the depression shows up, the anxiety shows up. A lot of stuff shows up, which, as you said, sometimes it's almost like people get shocked. Why is this happening now? I've survived it. I should be done with it. Well, you did, but this is a time for release now, because we're holding so much. This is actually a healing time. And although it's like you're going through deeper depression, but it's actually a releasing process. You're right. If people don't know about this process, they get freaked out about it. Everybody around you gets freaked out about it. So, thank you for sharing that yes, people do need to know there is a process. It's a psychological process and a release process after we are actually doing better. We're coming kind of to the end. Is there anything we haven't shared that you really, really want people to know?
Well, again, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation, and I hope that we get to do it again. That'd be great fun. I did start, it's an initiative. I don't know if it'll ever be a nonprofit or anything like that, but it's called tryingnottodie.LIVE. And the name comes from the fact that when we get something like this, we get so caught up in trying to not die that we forget that we really have to live, right? And whether it's 5 days, 50 years, whatever it is, we need to be living our lives. And so that is the website URL, just tryingnottodie.live. We've got a great online Facebook community, so the links are there. But it's a place for us to support anyone who's going through this journey, whether they themselves have cancer, and I call those people warriors. I tell people, you call me a patient and I really make a face at you. But our tribe, right? Our tribe of people who are around us, because sometimes they need more help than we do. I can't imagine what caregivers go through when they see their loved ones going through what we go through, because a lot of times they cannot help. And I tell people, people say like, oh, you're our hero. No, our caregivers are our superheroes, because they're the ones who, if we didn't have them, we couldn't have made it through.
And talk about PTSD. A lot of the caregivers do gain PTSD.
Oh, all I have to do is make a pain face, and my husband's like, what? And I hate that.
Yes. So it's beautiful that you've created this community for the warriors and for the caretakers and everyone. And it's important to go to the support groups in different ways. Sometimes when you're going through the process, you need that version of the support group. Sometimes those support groups, they're people who have been healed from this, and they create hope. Sometimes they share with you and you get ready. Like a lot of people I talk to, they're like, the doctors won't tell us that I'm going to go through this process with the chemo because they're, and then it was like, why didn't you tell me? It's like, well, I mean, you know, I don't want to scare you, but
Right.
but sometimes it's easier to share, get it from other people who've gone through it, and they're making you feel better. They tell you what to do, what to eat, what to eat, and you know, they prepare you for the process that, you know, for the next couple of days you're going to go through hell. So
Right.
you know, take care of yourself, and just to be with people who've gone through the process and share. And as you said, for caretakers to also go through, you know, different support groups. Now, find the one that fits you. Find the one that you feel comfortable with. Find the one that you know, you're going to feel connected. And definitely, you know, come in with the special, like you said, an online group that you could be with, and you know, feel that you could be with that group. So can you share how they can find you and the support group and be a part of that trial?
So if you go to tryingnottodie.LIVE, there's all the links that are there. And so you can find the Facebook link there. There's links if somebody wants to chat with me. I've got links to my calendar on there. You can find me on social and I'm only on Facebook and LinkedIn. I don't do the others because I would go down those rabbit holes and watch too many cat videos and never come back out. Right. But if you Google my name, or if you search by my name on LinkedIn or on Facebook, I'm the redhead that pops up. I think there's only 3 of us in the entire world with my name. And so it's pretty easy to find me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you.
And share about yourself, about you know, how you're supporting the community, and how you're bringing yourself and what you've learned and your humor and your care and love to a community who's going through the process, and a community who's a caretaker who is also going through the process. And as you said, this isn't the kind of a never ending, although you might be healthy, but the conversation impacted your life and people around you. And there is this conversation of, will it be back? Will it be back? So that kind of fears, you know, the anxiety is always there. So there's a beauty in coming together and experiencing that as a tribe together and together. So thank you for sharing this and taking care of yourself and everyone.
Well, thank you for all that you do to help everyone on this journey.
Thank you. And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.
Are you a psychotherapist looking to enhance your practice? The Awareness Integration Therapy developed by Dr. Foojan Zeine is a comprehensive guide to the principle and techniques of this powerful therapeutic approach. Join the growing community who have elevated their practice and expanded their skills by embracing Awareness Integration Therapy and witnessing its life-changing impact. Order your copy on Amazon now.